We good? Hey, we're live. So this is Comics with Bueller, and we are on the Comic Core tonight. I am your host tonight, Bueller, but we got some great guys on the panel, so I'd like to introduce you to some. The first one I want to show is a legend himself. Legend, say hello.
It's good to be here, everybody, on the Comic Core. Hottest show on Friday nights.
Hottest show on Friday nights. We throw together these topics that we don't know anything about, and we just rip it. So there you go. The next one we have is Paul. Paul, say hello as well.
Hey to everybody out there in the chat. Thanks for spending your Friday night with us, and hopefully we got a really good show for you this week.
Yeah, well, don't keep your fingers crossed, but we're going to try our best. The next one
we don't have Bat Dong this week, so
no Bat Dong, but it's around somewhere. It's not too far in the behind us. So the next one we have is Seawood. Seawood, say hello, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank God it's Friday. How's everybody doing tonight?
I don't know. We're doing all right. The next one, and normally the host of the show, but he's got some shingles going on, and that's a good thing. Not really. Chad, say hello as well.
Hey, guys. Ready for a good night.
Ready for a good night. He's got his little globy microphone right there, and he's just excited to be a part of the crew. He looks a little bit better than last week. Last week he faded at the end, but this week he's in for the long haul, so we're glad to have him. So this is my first time hosting the Comic Core, and I just found out about 30 seconds ago that I would be hosting, so we'll see how it goes. But the first thing we always get into is our picks of the week.
Holy
fuck! And start with
man.
We got someone else in here, so we got another guest on the panel. So go ahead and take it away. Say hello.
Is that Ben?
No, it's not Ben. It's Bueller.
Oh.
It's Bueller. Oh, and we lost our guest, so it's going very smoothly. So that's okay. So, Legend, what was your pick of the week?
Man, it was so hard because I read several books, and a lot of them were late. But I got to go with my pick of the week. Farmhand #4, man. Great story. Rob Guillory does it again. He starts the book out in a freaking flashback with Andrea, aka the daughter of Jebediah, the old man farmer. And we find out she was in Afghanistan or Iraq, and she lost her leg, like some IUD or whatever blew up. She lost her leg. And she goes back, and the colonel guy says, well, you've done a lot of great work, but your job's not done yet. We have one more mission for you. And she looks down at her leg. She's like, screw this. I'm done. I don't want to do any of this. I don't want to take no part in it. But the mission on the folder that he's holding up says Jebediah Jenkins or Hawkins or whatever the farmer's last name is. And so we find out that she has to spy on her dad and the whole futuristic farm and everything like that. Just a freaking awesome issue. I don't want to give too much away, but you're still left in suspense in this title where, you just can't wait for the next issue to come out and get into this story, because there's always something new. There's always a surprise. And I just love that book so much. I got to go with Farmhand #4.
Farmhand #4. That's been a pretty good title so far. So the creator of that book, he had another popular title. Did you read that one?
Yeah, Chew. I haven't read all the issues, but I've read about the first 10. Dang good book, man. I got all of them in hardcover. It's just, finding the time to get through a lot of reading. You know how it goes, Bueller. You get a lot of books, and it's like you kind of pick and choose your favorites, and like, oh, I'll read those later, and I still have to read them.
That's all right. That's what, what? We all have tons of books. I'm sure we haven't read them all. I've fairly rarely met someone who's read all their books.
We'll never run out. So it's really freaking awesome. And that's just another great thing about the hobby. We always have something to read and look at.
Exactly. So before we move on, Legend, I need you to do me a favor because my computer's not working. Can you keep an eye on the chat for me? Because you do it better than anyone I know.
I've got a lot of, let me go over real quick some of the folks we do have in the chat right now. We have our brother Trinity Entertainment. It's good to see Trinity. We got Kakarot in the house, man. He's always showing the duck and the flame right next to each other. We got our other brother Matt, aka Thanatos Comics, man. He loves him some of that yellow ring. He loves that yellow lantern. We got Midwest Comic Man in the chat, and we're going to get to him here in a little bit. Brandon Stawinski Comics, a great man right there. I love Brandon Stawinski. He's got some great stuff. We got the better half of Midwest Comic Man, and I'm talking His ball and chain is here. And who else we got in here? We got
She's
Brett
not
Hess.
happy
What
with
is up,
Legend's
Brett?
face.
She's not happy with the clean shaven and the real short hair, no beanie. Brett Hess, man, it's great to see you, Brett. Oh, we got Fat Dad Comics. What's up, Fat Dad? Robert Galvin, good to see you. Robert Galvin is in the freaking house tonight. C. Woodard's rolling in the chat. We got my first mate from Sea of Thieves, vinyl collector and comic book collector and retro gaming collector, Brian Spaceboy 227. Brian, great to see you. We got Bake the Snake Roberts. It's good to see Bake the Snake. And Jason Smith is here along with the lovely Bueller. One of our favorites is in here, Miss Hustle. And who can forget the king of slabs, TJ Watson, and a great friend of Bueller's is here with us, and he is Tangled, Sam's Tangled Web, man. So, Bueller, we got a lot of great people in the chat, my friend.
We do have a lot of great people, and actually, me and Sam are going to be hanging out tomorrow. We're going to be diving through some 50-cent books, so I'm looking forward to it. So, thank you, Legend. I appreciate you keeping on in chat for me. You do a very great job at it. So, thank you so much, my friend. But we got to move on to Paul himself. So, Paul, I know you don't read a lot of comics that currently came out. Is there ones that came out that you're looking forward to reading? And did you read any from last week?
Oh, I'm looking forward to Farmhand, and I read a ton of books last week. Last week was just a really good week for books. There was a ton of great stuff out there. Trying to remember what really stuck out for me. There was that New Image book.
The rabbit one?
Yeah, Dead Rabbit. Yeah, that was really good.
Hmm.
And just since I don't read the books, I'll show my cover of the week, and I'll go a little old school with some Art Germ goodness.
Oh, the Baroness, man. Love the Baroness.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got that. I've got the Adam Hughes Baroness. You give me a great artist doing a good Baroness, I'm going to get it.
Very cool. Did you get a chance to read the Heroes in Crisis book?
Yes, I did.
What did you think about that one?
It was different. It was dark.
Yeah, it was. It was not a pretty sight for him.
I liked it. I think I'm gonna keep following up on it. I thought Harley was her, as she should be, completely insane.
Yeah, that's a great book. If anyone hasn't checked that out, Heroes in Crisis, I believe it's a 9-part series by DC. It's a pretty devastating, the first issue, so it's a lot of fun. It's definitely an intriguing story. Paul, anything else?
No, I think that's it for this week.
Okay, so we're moving on to our go-to guy when it comes to reading books. This guy probably reads more than all of us put together. So Seawood, let us know what you're reading, my friend.
All right, so first off, my cover of the week, gotta be Supergirl 23. Nice DC foil action. She's got those nice, bright, vibrant blue eyes. So had to buy this one. I've been picking up Supergirl. But actually, the story is interesting. I actually kind of want to go pick up the last two because apparently she's feuding with the Green Lantern Corps over the destruction of Krypton. So I have no idea what's going on there, but that was actually kind of neat. But my pick of the week, picked this up on a complete whim. Hadn't read anything at all about it prior, but the cover got me. It's just called Murder Falcon, #1 by Image. And this book, oh man, I was laughing the whole time. Basically, if you guys haven't heard of Murder Falcon like I haven't before Wednesday, just about a fat, overweight guy with long blonde hair using the power of heavy metal to fight giant monsters. So right there, the premise of the first few pages immediately had me hooked. So you kind of find out a little bit about his origin story in this one too. But just the fact that he is able to somehow use a guitar to summon something called the Murder Falcon to fight giant monsters. I'm going to be putting this book on my pull list. So very awesome book, I got to say.
Yeah, Chad recommended that to me. So I'm also looking forward to that.
It was my autobiography.
So, Chad, go ahead. Let's see what you got there, buddy. You're looking good tonight. I see the medication for the shingles is kicking in, so that's good.
Yeah. So this book is absolutely hilarious. If you guys pick this up, it's about this Falcon. When the Falcon comes down and this overweight, out of shape rocker plays his guitar faster, the Falcon gets stronger, and he is going to fight these monsters. And like Carson said, It was hilarious. My other pick came from Black Mask. It was number 1. It's called The Devil Within. It's about two ladies in a relationship, and the one is let's just say the devil's in her, and a lot of stuff happens. It's interesting. I'm excited about the second issue. Those are my 2 biggest picks, but, and I'll say it now, we do have a giveaway this week, and it's the variant edition of Spider Gideon.
Spider Geddon?
Gideon?
Yeah.
So we'll do that at the end, but I just wanted to show those were my actually 3 big picks. I was very surprised on some of the deaths in the Spider book. Very surprised, actually, especially with some of the new movies coming up. So I'm not going to spoil it, but solid read.
Anything else, Chad, or is that going to do it?
Oh, my last pick of the week.
There we go.
For all you He-Man fans out there, it's the complete collection.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's a thing of beauty.
And it's the little tiny books in collection. But the cool thing about it is, and I didn't realize this, that some of the stories written in those little tiny mini comics were written by Bruce Timm and Robert Kirkman. So very cool.
I don't have a lot of He-Man books.
Are you giving that one away just to the panel members, like a drawing? Me and Bueller want that one.
Yeah, come on, there, Chad.
The other giveaway that I was going to do was the Art Germ Catwoman.
Oh, cool.
Ain't no He-Man.
No, I'll take the He-Man. You keep your Art Germ Catwoman. So let me go ahead and jump to my pick of the week. And I kind of went over this on my live stream before our live stream here. It was Spider-Geddon number 1. I read it just a little bit ago, and Chad kind of touched on it a little bit. I enjoyed the book. I thought one of the things I mentioned was, when you get all these spider characters together, it's like, that's an unstoppable team. Who's going to be able to match what they can do? And at the beginning of the book, when they introduced someone that could have been the villain, I was like, that guy's not going to have a chance. But by the end of the book, and there was obviously a couple deaths, you kind of see who the villains are going to be. And you kind of realize, okay, this the Spider-Geddon team or Spider-Men and women are definitely going to be in a hard spot here. And I enjoyed that. So I'm looking forward to this. I don't know how long this runs for. I don't know if it's a 6 or 7 series event, but I liked it. It was a lot of fun. I like Spider-Man, and you get all of them in there. So it's very cool. And then the other one was obviously as far as the sneaker of the week. And let's go ahead and talk about this here in a little bit, guys. But this is the Venom number 7, and this is the secret variant that came out. And when I say secret variant, nobody knew it was coming out. The local shops didn't know about it. It showed up, and it was different than the regular cover, and that's when they found out. So this book is selling right now for $15 to $20 online, and selling for not just prices, but actually sold for that price. And the difference is there's a tongue at the bottom that's coming out of the mouth, and the barcode is different, and the teeth are different. And that's really the only difference. It could be something that you can just pass right by and you won't even notice if you're not looking for it. So those were my 2 picks of the week. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on secret variants, and I want to know what you guys think. So we'll go ahead and start out with Legend. What do you think about this book, the Venom 7, and what do you think about secret variants just popping out of nowhere?
I don't read Venom, but that cover looks pretty dang cool. As far as them popping out of nowhere, and that's the thing, you really just never know, until you go into the shop and you walk by it. Like you said, a lot of folks won't even notice it because they're so inclined to see what they see in the previews, like cover A. They're going to go after just cover A because, that's my Venom, I need to read that book, so I'll go ahead and get that. But for those that take the time, and when the variant catches your eye catches the variant. So if you take the time and look out, and you might find something you didn't know was coming out. So it's really cool, man. As far as other stuff goes for secret variants, I like getting I'll usually get the variants of my favorite kind of characters, Fantastic Four stuff. I drop a lot of money on them variants, but I just love those characters so much. So yeah, I guess everyone will have a different opinion. Dang good question. God, this is good stuff, man.
So, Legend, let me ask you, how many of the Fantastic Four variants did you get? There was quite a few. Did you get the whole set?
I don't know if I got the whole set because there was some store exclusive. There was also those variants that had to do with the other titles, but the other titles had Fantastic Four variants. But yeah, for the most part, I think I have all of the regular ones except the normal Alex Ross. I only have the Virgin 1 in 200 Alex Ross, but I didn't get that 1 in 50. But yeah, pretty much all those other ones for issue 1 I do have. There's some in issue 2, like the Scotty Young Invisible Woman. I need to find that and track that one down. I may have to get that one off eBay, but yeah, I try to get them all if I can.
Do you need the Art Germ, the Invisible Woman one?
I have the Art Germs.
Okay.
It's just the Scotty Young. It's Scotty Young, but it was issue 2, and it was
I got you.
Invisible Woman. But I got the Reed Richards Scotty Young issue 1. Yeah. Loved Scotty Young ones.
So let me ask you: are these books staying in your collection? I know you're a huge Fantastic Four fan. Is this set going to sit in your collection?
Yeah, the whole set will sit in my collection. I try to get every single cover, except the Whitman variants, but I try to get every single cover of every single Fantastic Four book ever made. And I know I'm missing some, and it's going to be just pure. Every time a modern books come out, of issue 1s, the more and more variants come out because the variants are really hot. Everyone loves variants. Everyone likes, and what's great about variants, some people may not like them, but some people do like them. But the greatest part about the variants, they're different covers, and it's not you're buying the exact same cover, but you're picking out the one you want to buy, what your favorite one is. And for me, since I love Fantastic Four so much, and I got a little OCD completionist stuff going on, I try to just get every single one of them. But yeah, they'll never be sold. All of those stay in the collection.
Right on. Well, that's good, man. If anybody hasn't checked out your Fantastic Four collection, I know you did a bunch of videos showing all the issues that you have. They are mesmerizing because not only do you have almost the whole run, right?
I got the whole run. Yep.
The whole run. Okay. And not only do you have the whole run, but a majority of them are graded.
Yeah. A lot of them are graded. And some are pretty high grade. I got them back in 2013, most of them. And I got them at a good price. And it's just amazing how much those books have gone up in value. Like I had this, Fantastic Four 48, which a lot of folks love Silver Surfer, and I got a 9.4, and it's worth about 3 or 4 times as much as I bought it for, and it's just amazing, like the rise of some of the prices of the books. It's crazy, but I love it. I love collecting, and we're going to talk about why we collect here in a little while. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to move on to Paul because I want to ask Paul about variants, but I have another question for Paul. I'm going to ask after this. So, Paul, what do you think about the secret variants that show up out of nowhere?
I think it puts some excitement back into it. I mean, these days, everybody knows about every variant 2 months before they come out. And, it's like when Kirkman did that release of the comic a couple months ago that nobody knew about, just kind of popped up, and everybody's like, whoa. I mean, I think that's what it used to be like for me when I was a kid and I went to the comic store down to the corner rack, because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have Diamond telling us 3 months ahead of time what was coming out. So you'd have that excitement of seeing something and be like, holy crap, look at that cover. So I definitely think it's a good thing.
I heard recently that a lot of artists are thinking about doing it more often because they enjoy doing it and they enjoy the excitement. We had that book come out not too long ago, that Die, Die, Die. And that book had nobody knew the book was coming out, from what I understand. And then like the cover had a whole bunch of variants, and it was just the word bubbles. It wasn't like different artwork. It was just different sayings in the bubbles itself. How do you feel about that, Paul? Is that enough to be a variant, or is that just not that big of a deal?
To me, that's more just like, from what I understand, that was just like they had like 10 or 15 different covers but they were all printed in the same print level. So I mean, to me that's just like different covers. It's a variation but not a variant. To me, a variant is something that's more limited than the standard cover.
So I got one question, and this came up, one of my viewers on my channel asked me this. So DC has just put out a bunch of variant covers for the foil versions of their books. You do a great service. You do a pressing service and a cleaning service for comics. Can you press a foil cover?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're probably about the hardest things to work on. I mean, you have to be very careful with your temperature control and things like that, because if your temperature gets too high, the cover just crackles and gets all the little cracks through it. So,
like broken windshield.
yeah.
So you'd probably recommend not pressing a foil cover just because it just has a higher chance of damaging, because for one, they don't make that many foil covers, so it's not something that happens all the time like in the mid 90s. But and the reason why it came up, because apparently a lot of these foil covers for DC were damaged, that the ones that came out, and if it's a tough decision to decide to get it pressed or not to fix it, you might probably just want to hunt down the best copy you can get, just so you don't.
I usually recommend not pressing them, just because it is so easy for them to go wrong. It's, if you like it, just get the best copy you can.
Yeah. Right on. I was curious about that, Paul. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Seawood himself. And this guy buys a ton of comics, so I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. So what is Seawood? So what's your thought on the secret variant just popping out of nowhere?
So before I start on my thoughts, there's some good thoughts here in the chat I want to read real quick. So Fat Dad Comics says,
awesome segue.
Secret variants are great. Just don't like it when they jack up the price on the wall on release day. I do kind of agree with that. Obviously it sucks having to pay $15 to $20 for a tongue and a set of teeth. Obviously that sucks, but sometimes those stores got to keep those lights on. And then our fellow brother Thanatos Comics is in the chat. He's saying hard work to keep track of the variants. I think he likes variants, except for like the Return of the Wolverine style ones, where they have like the same background, the same style Wolverine, but he's in like a different costume. And then there's one I just thought of while we were kind of sitting here chatting. Tomorrow is Walking Dead Day, and they have like 15-ish different variants, all bagged. So in these bags, you can either get their variant cover, which is by a pretty well-known artist. There's a virgin variant cover, there's a black and white variant cover, and there's a black and white virgin cover. So you get a shot of 4 different blind bag variants. So like I said, that's why anymore I bought this, because I wanted to read Venom. Yeah. It's been a really good read. Ryan Stegman is killer on the art still in this book. And Donnie Cates has been awesome so far on this Venom run. So getting back to this book, I actually really, really enjoyed this issue. I was kind of wondering if it was going to start to slow down a little bit because he just finished up his first 6-issue arc. This one takes place a couple months later, and you get like the new main bad guy for this arc is going to be an ultimate character I thought was long gone dead. So I'm very intrigued, and I'm definitely going to stay on board for Venom. So that's why I just recommend, instead of, it's hard to collect variants anymore. Sure, sometimes you're going to get, you might pay $10 and eventually that one's going to be worth $100, $200 short term. But at the end of the day, like if I was trying to collect every variant, I'd go broke and not have time to read anything because it's just such a high risk thing to do if you don't know what you're doing. Like, and at that point, for me, I enjoy collecting variants, but sometimes it's just not worth the time or the money. It just becomes more frustrating. So to all you collectors out there, I just suggest collecting to read. That's what I always say on my channel, at least.
I have always said once you flip the cover, it's the same book.
Yeah.
It's the same book. So, Chad, what's your thoughts, my friend? What's your thoughts on the secret variants that pop out of nowhere?
You know what? Some of them are pretty cool. I like to grab them, but if I grab them, I'm usually giving them away. But for the most part, I just grab my subscription. I don't see. I'm not a flipper. I like to read the books. Hell, there's a lot of books that there's a ton of wear and tear on. But for the most part, I'm not a collector. I like to read the stories.
I agree. I'm a story guy, and I do like having the option of a variant, but not a ton of them. Not like 20 variants for Spider-Geddon. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 variants like the A and B cover that DC is doing right now. I think that's a great option because it's a 1-for-1 type thing. The comic shop can buy either or both, and they don't have to qualify for it. And I think that's kind of the way to go. But I want to go ahead and we're going to cover a topic tonight. We're going to cover why you collect. But there was actually some news that came out just the other day, and I want to get your thoughts on this. And I haven't talked about this with you guys before we started, but God Country, the original book by Donny Cates, has now been optioned for a movie, and he is going to be writing God Country. Are any of you guys familiar with God Country, and what's your thoughts on that being made into a movie? And I'll go ahead and start with Legend. We'll come back around. Legend, go ahead.
The Blaster Stash crew back in the day, I remember they were loving on the God Country, and I know Trinity Entertainment spoke really highly of God Country, but I've never read it myself. But I've heard a lot of great stuff about the story itself, so it will be pretty cool to see Donny Cates like be hands-on with the movie. You don't see that a lot of times, but maybe they looked at some of the DC movies and say, hey, we might want to get the guy that wrote the book to maybe write the movie to see if we can make it better than some of these DC movies. But yeah, I'll watch that movie. I'm pretty excited, and good for that guy, you know, good Texas dude. So that's pretty cool.
Paul, what do you think? Did you hear about that news?
I didn't hear that it was an option, but it doesn't surprise me. It was a really great story. For me, the main thing is for it to be done right, it's going to need a budget. I mean, because that book was just to do it right, to do it justice, you would have to have a big budget because there's going to be lots of CGI, and you know, it's an intense thing. And I think you probably are going to have to go for an R too.
Yeah, that's definitely an R-rated movie for sure. I don't even think you could pull it off without having the R rating. Seawood, what about you? Are you first thing? Are you familiar with God Country? Have you read the whole series?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to buy the hardcover at C2E2 this April and read it. It was very good. Like Legend said in the chat, it put Cates on the map, and Brett Hess said it well in the chat too. God Country is his introduction to Cates, so good. So and then there's Trinity Entertainment as well. God Country is Cates' best thing in my opinion. And I would honestly probably have to agree with that right now. I think, you know, that was my introduction to Donny Cates as well. And I know his Thanos run was awesome, and his Venom run's been great so far. But yeah, God Country was a stellar story. A little nervous about him actually penning the script. We'll see how that translates to film, if he's ever done anything like that in his life before. Yeah. But so far in his short comic career, he's knocked it out of the park. So I have high expectations for this.
Very much so. Chad, what about you, my friend? Did you hear that news?
You know what? I actually sent a tweet. Congratulations to Donnie. Just because when I saw this, I was ecstatic. The best part about the entire thing is, and Carson, I hate to give you some grief, but we've all always wanted a comic book writer to write a story. How nice is it? Here is your script, boys and girls. Follow it. And if you follow it to a T, it's going to be mind-blowing. I mean, we've seen what they've done with adaptations. And this particular one, if Donny Cates is on it, I'm all for it. I am 100% for it. This leads me to, like, I hope you don't mind if I jump on with that question. But DC pinned somebody up to head up their DCU, and I think that guy got comics, and I'm excited about James Gunn taking over Suicide Squad.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I think we're all in agreement. We're all looking forward to an actual comic writer producing a script for Hollywood and them using that script. The source material is already there. It's always been there. Why they don't just use the source material is always, it's left me speechless, really, when you think about it, because there's so much stuff that's out there. But before we get to our main topic tonight, Legend, how's our chat looking?
The chat is looking really good. I'm checking it right now. Brett Hess, like Woodard said, he's ready for that God Country. He said it was his introduction to Donny Cates. He said it was really good. Trinity Entertainment, Jeremy says God Country is Cates' best thing in his opinion. And then Comics Must Explain, he agrees. He says that put Cates, that made him known. Brian Spaceboy says, isn't Reborn going to be a movie or series? Y'all know about Reborn? Now, I read the first couple issues.
That was Scott Snyder, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It was, Mark Millar and Greg Capullo.
Oh, Mark Millar and Greg Capullo. Capullo, Snyder. They're all good. Brandon Stawinski, man, he's got to go to bed because he has an early morning tomorrow. So, Brandon, go sell some houses, brother. And then Sam's Tangled Web is back. Don't be distracted, Sam. You're watching Comics with Bueller hosting the hottest panel you ever going to see. So make sure you get untangled from that web and keep your eyes on the screen, my friend.
Awesome.
I do
Go ahead, Chad.
I got to give one big shout out to Larry Patrick, the creator of Niobe Comics. Unfortunately, we are having a hellish time on technical difficulty, and he was supposed to join us to show his new book and cover, and he jumped in for a second, then jumped out. He didn't jump out. We have no idea what's going on at this particular moment. It just says on our end, it says LP left group chat, so not 100% sure, but LP, if you can join us, that's all.
All right, thanks a lot, Chad. Appreciate that. Okay, guys, I think we should jump into our topic for tonight, and I think it's a great topic. And I want to this is something that I talked with Legend a little bit earlier today about some topics that we could go over. And the reason why we're going over this one, it's why we collect, or why do I collect? Why do you collect? Why do we collect? But the reason this this topic came up was there's another YouTuber, Reggie Simmons, IFBB Pro, and he's been on this show before as a guest. He is doing a contest right now for his 1,000 subscribers, and this is his contest is why do you collect? He's asking YouTubers to make a video to enter his contest, and that's the question he asked. Why do you collect? His was a little bit more broad. He said you could say if you collect baseball cards or toys or whatever, you could do it on whatever you want. But I thought it was a great topic, and so I thought we'd go over it tonight. We're going to mix it up a little bit because Legend's probably like, oh, it's my turn. Nope, we're going to go to Paul. Going to throw a loop for Paul, and we're going to start out with Paul. So Paul,
put me on the spot.
Let's put that mustache to good use, my friend. Let's hear the reason why you collect at this point in your life, and why you started collecting in the first part when you started to do it.
It's always been the same all along. It's all about the story, the story, the story. I mean, yes, I collect certain artists because I like their artwork, and I do like artwork in comic books, but I don't buy a single book that I don't intend to read at some point. I've fallen behind now because I've been buying a lot of books lately, but at some point I'm going to catch up and read every single book. When I was younger, it was always, getting into those fantasy worlds, or, just getting into a different world and seeing things happen. I always was a Marvel guy growing up because they did more than DC. They had the stories that went issue to issue, whereas DC did a lot more one-shot stuff until they started catching up to Marvel with that. Yeah, it's definitely always all about the story for me.
So is there any, do you sell comics as well, Paul? Is that something that you do?
Not usually, no. I mean, if I do, it's usually to fund the purchase of something else.
Was there a time when you probably started out casual like we all did and just kind of picked the books off the rack at the grocery store or whatnot. Do you remember the time when you decided, you know what, this is something I'm going to be into for the rest of my life? Do you remember when that hit?
I would say probably in my early teens. And then when I got to be 16, 17, I started working at a comic book store. And that's when I really started getting a lot of stuff together. And, and then I went through a point where I sold everything I had back to the comic book store because I went back to school and everything that helped fund that. Sure. And I wish I still had all that stuff because I had, I probably had 10 copies of ASM 300 and, just I was literally loaded from say 1970 to 1990. I had tons of stuff that I wish I had now. But I sold it, went back to school, got me where I am now to where I'm buying again. That started about 5 years ago. I just, went into a comic book store when I moved out to Iowa and started picking up a couple books and the same thing. It was just like a slow progression. I started picking up a couple books and then I set up a pull list and then I just started buying.
So was there a friend or family that got you into comics, or was it something that you found on your own and just kind of took over from there?
I would say probably one supported it was my mom, because she let me buy them when I went to the, down to the corner store or the convenience store, and she'd be like, here's a couple bucks, get a couple comic books. And little did she know what she was starting.
So you're a father. You got some kids. So do you see them following in your footsteps?
Yeah, they're slowly getting into it. I mean, they love all the characters, and they're at the age where most of them are starting their reading. So, I mean, that's a great way for them to start reading is something interesting to them like that. That's not going to be super difficult. So, I picked up, like, Free Comic Book Day. I always pick up the My Little Pony and whatnot for my daughter. And,
Is it really for your daughter?
Oh, I'm a brony in disguise. Don't you know?
Dude, I look at you and it's brony.
I say the nay.
Yeah. So are your books going to go to your kids, when the time comes? Is it just handing down to kids, or are you going to, nope, I'm going to sell them and take a cruise to the Bahamas or something like that?
I don't plan to sell them. They're for the kids.
Okay. They're for the kids. That's awesome.
That's their inheritance. They'll probably sell the hell out of them when I'm gone, but
well, I think I've told my kids that they're going to get my comics, and they're like, they don't want them. So I hopefully they'll go to my grandkids and they might appreciate them a little bit more. But we did have a guest join us, and from Rebel Comics. Say if you can, if you're on, if it's working, go ahead and say hello, Rebel.
Hello, Rebel.
A little bit more than that. Go for it.
You guys hear an echo at all?
No, good so far.
Sounds good.
Legend, you got like such a baby face going on, dude. Like, man, you look like you're 20.
I know, right?
Yeah, we carded him before we're able to let him go on live with us, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
But,
so I don't know why I couldn't get on. I mean, I was having like the hardest issues here. It said someone removed me, and then I couldn't join. But Google Hangouts is weird like that. If you block someone, even like it's like 3 or 4 years ago, it will still cause you problems. So I guess I have to join as Rebel Gaming.
LP, we're right in the middle of discussing a topic that we're into, and the topic is, why do you collect comics? So since you just jumped in, we're going to give you the floor, my friend. And what got you into collecting comics? Why do you collect now? And has that changed over the years?
Oh man, how much time do we got?
We got 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay.
That's good. No, go ahead.
I started, I got into it because I was watching Super Friends, the 1960s Spider-Man show. God, I sound old. And, as a kid, you love the cartoons. And the next thing you know, you go into a convenience store and you see a spinner rack. And, oh, my God, there's a Spider-Man book I can buy? Oh, that's cool. And you pick that stuff up. And that, of course, is – so cartoons was a gateway to comics. And the rest kind of, fell in between, Then so as a kid, you read your Archies and your Spider-Man and stuff. And then you buy those from the corner store. The next thing you know, like come age 13, 14, you have this realization that, oh, my God, there's this thing called the comic shop. Oh, my God, what's this? And you go inside, and it's nothing but everything you love, So then you get a little bit more serious about collecting. You see, oh, my God, there's these things called bags and boards and long boxes. And look at all these old dudes coming in that know everything. And, as a kid, you're sucking that right up, And, I've been hooked, off and on ever since.
So that kind of led you into something else, obviously. And why don't you kind of tell us about that?
You mean making comics?
You got it.
I always wanted to be an artist. And I would try drawing since I was 14 and just could never be good, I mean, everyone's got plateaus in various different things. I could draw enough to kind of get the idea across, but I couldn't draw comics. I put that idea away for a long, long time. I was doing RPG games, and we were making superhero characters, and we were all sitting around the table. And we've been doing this for years. And I said, man, we have all these cool stories we made up ourselves, all these cool characters we made up ourselves, but the only people that know it are the 5 guys sitting around this kitchen table. Why don't we do a comic? And I got laughed out of the room. Ha ha ha, you'll never do a comic. Well, that was the fire I needed to get started, and I wrote a book, and I didn't know if the book would ever get made. I had a script, and then I started shopping around the local cons for an artist, and found a couple guys to jump on board, and the rest is basically history.
And when did that start? When did your comic we're referring to as Niobe? When did that first start?
That started 2015 when it got printed, but the idea for it probably started like late 13, early 2014 when I was going around to different cons and just having commissions done because I want to see. I would take my drawings to these people and I'd be like, man, here's my concept. Can you make it look professional? Can you make it look cool? I like to see what she looks like through an actual comic book artist's eyes. And when I started seeing those, I knew the path that was leading to.
I wanted to ask you this because I know you live up in Canada, correct?
Yeah, man, the White North, you know?
The White North. Okay, so obviously I'm in the States and I've very limited. I've been to Canada a couple times. Is the comic book scene different in Canada, growing up, for that matter?
Well, I mean, we just opened a new shop. So where you hear tales of shops closing down, we actually have a new shop. My LCS is called the Comic Hunter, and they have 2 locations. One's in Moncton, one's in Prince Edward Island. Now we opened a new one in a city called Fredericton, which I'm actually going to tomorrow to do a signing. So we have LCSs opening up, and so the scene here is really, really good. You know, yeah, I mean, it's good here. But yeah, Fredericton's the capital of this province, so it's good to see a new shop go there. I'm going to go there tomorrow. I'm going to hang out with the new guys that are running the shop over there, bring in the cosplay model with us, and we're going to have a good time.
Now, you just started, or you kind of mentioned how you started collecting. What would you tell someone who wants to start collecting? What would you suggest them do at this point? Well, obviously buy Niobe.
Well, I mean,
first.
Oh, well, of course, but I would ask
that aside.
No,
after they get their Niobe, then what?
Demographics and why they're collecting, right? If they're collecting for investment purposes, that's going to be a whole totally different answer than it is if it's just like a young kid who wants to read good stories, you know? So, I mean, if it's a young kid who wants to read good stories, I would tell my buddy's son, whatever speaks to you, man. Like if you go into a comic shop and a cover grabs you or a character grabs you, go ahead and pick it up. You know, if it's an investor, you know, a guy who wants to collect for investment, you know, I would, you know, recommend that you look for first appearances and, you know, buy your Silver Age and your Golden Age and, you know, do some homework and, you know, look up eBay and look at the Overstreet Price Guide and do some comparisons and that sort of advice. But if it's just a new guy coming on that just wants to read books, you know, who's your favorite hero, you know, and maybe recommend a good jumping point for them, you know. Lots of reboots have happened in the last few years. It's easy to like pick up on the New 52 or the Rebirth or something like that and go forward.
I agree. I actually like reboots myself just because it does offer a new collector a jumping on point. I know us longtime collectors kind of get frustrated with it, but for someone like me who stopped collecting a long time ago, then started up, and then I saw that Marvel's rebooting, it's like, oh, great. I can get back into these titles. I don't need to know too much lore, and I've enjoyed it ever since. So I enjoy that. But LP, we're going to move on to our next.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes, you can.
Rebel was talking about how they're opening up stores there, and Larry and I have talked about this, but I follow Kickstarter and all the things like that, and I see a lot of them are Canadian. Dude, Canada's got a really thriving indie scene too, don't they?
Yeah, and especially in my city, you know, we have like Colette Turner that lives here, Adam Atkinson, Andre Boulard, David Coates, myself. You know, Steve Boyu is just like a 5-hour drive up north. You have Troy Little right now who's doing Rick and Morty versus D&D. He's in Prince Edward Island, you know. You have Nick Bradshaw who works for Marvel Comics right here in this city as well. So a lot of it is centered around my little neck. But you know what? Then you go to Ontario and Quebec, and there's great people out there. You know, Canada does have a lot of great creators that, you know, no one even realizes they're Canadian until they're told that they're Canadian. You know, Jim Zub is Canadian. Todd McFarlane's from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, you know.
There's a good song by Adam Sandler that points out who Canadians are. I don't know if you've ever watched that, but it's a good song. It's you'll learn who a bunch of famous Canadians are. So check that out.
Darwin Cook was Canadian.
Love some Darwin Cook.
All right, Legend, you are up, my friend, and I want to hear this story because, we're talking about your Fantastic Four collection, and you've showed some great old books on your channel. So let's hear it, man. Why do you collect? Why did you start collecting? And where do you see it going from here?
The first books I ever got were pretty much because I watched a lot of cartoons growing up. I watched, like LP said, the old Spider-Man cartoon from the 60s. I watched the 1967 Fantastic Four cartoon, reruns, of course, but watched a lot of the cartoons. So one day I was in the grocery store. This was before I really just started collecting. I was just picking up stuff to read or whatnot in the little impulse buy section, and I got the Amazing Spider-Man 319, that one that you showed in your 50-cent haul with Backlash, Scorpion, and Rhino. And it's like coolest cover ever because they were all around Spider-Man. It was like a 3-on-1 handicap match. You had the boxing / old school wrestling sign in the bottom right hand corner that just looked really cool, and it reminded me of a Rocky movie. So I got that one, and then I didn't really think about it much. Junior high, some of my friends were getting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Adventures comics. I think it's by Archie Comics that put those out, and I would look at them. I didn't really buy them at that time, but then my junior high buddy Joseph Todd Walker, man, he showed me his comic book collection. Huge X-Men fan, mutant fan, New Mutants. He had the old 86 or 87, whichever one was Cable's first appearance. And what was funny back then, no one gave a crap about that guy number 98. They all liked Cable because, man, Cable was on the X-Men cartoon in the 90s. It was just freaking awesome. So he took me down to Lone Star Comics in Plano, Texas, and I went with him, and he's like, yeah, let me show you the shop where I get some of my comic books. Really nice shop. So I went down there and I bought just one book. I didn't have much money at the time, but in their bins, I got Fantastic Four issue 167, which had Fantastic Four and had Hulk in there, of course. And it was the Thing and the Hulk, and they were teaming up together against Reed, Sue, and Johnny. I thought it was just a damn coolest story. And, about 2 or 3, 4 years later, I was able to get issue 166 to read the complete story. But I always have loved the Fantastic Four ever since that cartoon, and seeing the Thing bust through the wall, and every time he breaks something, he'd say, "It's clobber and Tom," and he had that crazy voice. I can't remember the voice actor, but he was a famous voice actor in some of those old cartoons. And man, I just started collecting a lot of Fantastic Four, and also collected a lot of Spider-Man. I have sold a lot of that Spider-Man stuff. I still have some of the McFarlane Spider-Man, but I fell in love with just reading the books and then admiring the art. And then since then, I've collected off and on. I collected pretty heavy from like 6th, 7th grade up to about 10th grade. And then I kind of quit. And then I started collecting again in the early 2000s. And then I started collecting again in 2011. So I've been off and on for about 3 times. But ever since 2011, I've consistently collected titles that I've liked, characters that I've liked, stuff like that. So I'm still collecting today. I don't buy as much as I used to, just because there's more things to pay for, like AC, which is back on. Woohoo! That's cool again. But
I figured that's why you got your hair cut and the braid off, because it was just boiling hot in there. You had to shed some hair.
Now, Legend, you're probably, I have an addendum to mine now, because I was thinking about when you came in. You're probably the one other than me that collects Golden Age books.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, for me, that's another thing with collecting with me. There's just something special about holding a book from like the 1940s and what has that book been through and what stories could it tell, and just the whole history of it.
Amen to that, man. That's what I love about it. And back in the day, I was watching Howler Mouse, and he was kind of saying the same thing. You get these old back issues, especially like Golden Age, stuff from the late 30s or early 40s and all that stuff, and you hold that book in your hand. If you're lucky, you can get a date stamp. Maybe they'll put the price stamped on there, which, like, when you're holding the Golden Age, some of our new school folks may not like date stamps or crap stamped on the cover, but I freaking love it. I've actually gone as far to try to Google the old cigar shops maybe these books were sold at, or trying to find the story within the story. So one cool thing, and this is really cool, man. Golden Age, though, man, God,
There's nothing like
awesome.
it.
There's nothing like it. You smell that smell, man. It's just like old school. It's like these books are like older than my dad, and it just makes you sit down.
I've actually held up books, and my dad's been like, "Hey, I remember reading that when I was a kid," and that's cool.
And it's like history, it's like all comics are history, but when you hold one back from freaking 1941, like Wiz Comics 25 came out December 1941, and you think to yourself, damn, December 7th, Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor, some of the wars, looking at the Captain America from Timely Comics, the stuff with battling the Nazi Germany and everything. I mean, you're holding history in your hands. I mean, and it's like you see, they had political satire in those old school newspapers, but putting that political stuff, putting that wartime stuff, the war stamps, even putting that in the old books. And when you look at it and you think about it, it's just an amazing feeling. So anyone in the chat, me and Paul, we want y'all to pick up a golden age. It doesn't have to be something like crazy or special, but pick something up. Look at the old ads in there. Just see how far we've come as just a society. You know what I mean? From like the early golden age to the modern age of cell phones and stuff like that. So damn, Paul, good stuff, man.
It's a lot of stuff has changed. So, Legend, I got to ask you. So, were you a lone collector? Did you have a friend that got you into it, or were you collecting with anyone else? Because I was by myself, man. I didn't know anyone who was there in the comics like I was. And as far as when I was younger, did you have anyone that was into it as well?
I had my buddy Todd and I had my buddy Eric. Those were my two main ones. And I know Todd probably still collects books today, and Eric, he's got a kiddo himself, so he's probably eventually going to get his kid into some comics. But buddy Eric, he really liked those Valiants in the 90s, Archer and Armstrong and Magnus Robot Fighter and Bloodshot and all these. He really liked those. And the funny thing was, we didn't really, we all liked Spawn, we liked some of the Image, but a lot of us, we all collected just different titles. But the coolest part about that was we got to just, trade them off. Hey, read this book. And, stuff like that. So we would each kind of be able to read each other's books to see what was going on. But, I didn't really get into Valiant and all that and Todd's X-Men. Nothing was as good as the world's greatest comic magazine, in my opinion. So, man, that's Fantastic Four for life right there.
I love that question because I do have a buddy I got into comics with, and he's right beside me. He's half passed out because he's been drinking all day. But his wife is here as well. So Penny, say hello.
Hello.
And she's heard all the war stories. Me and this guy that's beside me, at 14 years old, we would leave our town, bike across the bridge, across the river, go to a different city, which was like 15, 20-minute bike ride, pick up our comic books with our lunch money, and then come back home to school and then read our comic books in class and get in trouble for it.
So, Penny, this is your second time, I believe, on Comic Core. Hopefully everything is going well. And I think the last time you made an appearance, we were talking about signatures and stuff like that. Hopefully we were able to kind of shed some light on paying for signatures. We probably didn't, but I just want to say thanks to now be an official second timer, Penny.
Thank you. And you are correct.
Awesome.
She's like all smiling ear to ear now. She loves you guys, and she can't believe she's on the show.
That's awesome. Well, anytime we can get a lady's opinion, we'll take it because trust me, we need the help. So, anyway, Legend, you're a father as well. So, what do your kids think of your comics and stuff? Do you let them even look at them? Because
they have their own little short box, but they haven't got into them in such a long time. They my oldest really likes SpongeBob comics, and it was so cool. We had the publisher, one of the guys that worked under Steve Hildenbrand, send us a nice Facebook message because we reviewed a father and son review of SpongeBob comics. We had a group called Ape Entertainment that was out of, I think, Fort Worth. I don't know if they're still around. I think mainly they do digital, but we did we reviewed Penguins of the Madagascar, and we got some free signed books by them. And me and him, we love that stuff, but the older he's gotten, he's more reading chapter books. Now he reads young adult books like Maze Runner and a lot of just stuff like that. So he doesn't really do comics. He prefers to read young adult novels and everything. And my youngest is really into Big Nate by Lincoln Pierce. And that's kind of like a comic book, but it's got more words in it. But and he's read some Justice League Action, had a comic book for a while. He's read the Scooby-Doo team-up stuff, but they're not into it as much as I am, And I don't try to force feed anything. If my kiddos don't like They don't like wrestling. They don't like basketball. So they don't like a lot of my hobbies, but I do support their stuff. You know, I'll watch them do Minecraft. Even though it pains me, I'll watch them play Fortnite, you know. But yeah, but you know, one of these days they're going to have a crap ton of Fantastic Four to read. So I'm hoping they do read it eventually, you know.
That's awesome. Well, you're going to let them crack open your Fantastic Fours, the slabs?
Maybe not the slabs. Knowing them, they'll just try to sell those on eBay or something.
Well, that's awesome. You know, a bunch of us on the panel here do have children, so I always like to hear your people's opinions on their kids if they enjoy the comics as well. Unfortunately, mine do not enjoy the comics. You know, and it skips a generation. It kind of always seems like that when you're into something. But we're going to go ahead and jump to Seawood. So you got a great collection. You show it every Tuesday on your live show. And what time is that show again? Let everyone know.
It is Tuesdays, every single Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern, because no one else uses Tuesdays.
7:35. 7:35.
35. We're going TBS, the Superstation time. 7:35.
There you go.
There's a storm brewing in the Superstation.
Storm brewing on Tuesday night.
Thunder.
So Seawood has a great live show. It's 7:35 Tuesdays Eastern time. He shows a bunch of books that he gets throughout the week, and he shows a bunch of his. He gets a lot of original artwork done and sketches and signatures, and I always enjoy seeing those. So Seawood, let me know what got you into collecting. Why do you collect now? Is it the same as when you first started, and has your opinion changed over the years?
Oh man, there's just so many reasons. I want to start with a comment that was way back when here. I believe it's from Hialeah Comic Bro. The comment is buying the Marvel stickers from an ice cream man. Those stickers were amazing. And going to a 7-Eleven and getting the Marvel Slurpee cups. Then the spinner rack. That was comics nirvana. The point I want to make on that is comics have been ingrained or almost even created pulp culture since the late 1930s. The reason I mention that is because growing up in the 80s and early 90s, obviously, some of my first exposures to these characters, even before I knew they were really comic books about these characters, were, like LP said, the Super Friends. I would watch that in syndication on Cartoon Network on and off, and because I collected the action figures as a kid, I always lost the little cheap capes they came with. Like I never had a cape for any of my characters, but I had those action figures. And then, of course, one of my very vivid first memories is seeing 1989's Batman on the big screen. I think that was the first time I had ever been in a movie theater or remember seeing a movie in the theaters. So with all that being said now, and I think I've told the story on my channel before, maybe even on this show, it was, I think, Christmas, either late 92 or 93, whatever year it happened. I got a fourth printing of the Death of Superman in my Christmas stocking. And that was that was an interesting Christmas gift. Like, oh, what would he like? He wants to see one of his favorite characters die as a 10-year-old. So I get this in my Christmas stocking, and I was just like, they killed him? Really? At that time, you never heard of anything like that. So that it was a fourth print. It was in my Christmas stocking. So I was just like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing or what I was reading. It was the first time I had ever held a comic, and I was just kind of obsessed since, I guess. But I didn't know how to collect or buy them. So probably about 6 months passed, and then I pick up this issue here on a grocery stand, Adventures of Superman 500, which we've also talked about. And I was reading through it, and there was this character right here who identified pretty well with me, Connor Kent's Superboy. Not to mention all the other characters like Eradicator and Steel and all of them, Cyborg Superman. And I was just like, I got to see what this is all about. So I kept going from grocery stores, the flea markets, collecting comic books after that. So that's kind of how I got into collecting originally. But after a while, I mean, I think most of us, I feel like a lot of people fell off in the late 90s just because the quality really wasn't there. The only exception would probably be, your X-Men titles, which I enjoyed, but I wasn't really picking them up frequently. So about a little bit during my college years, I kind of found out not only was I able to start collecting it at a local shop for the first time that was really nice around me, but then I start hearing about comic conventions. More or less was like, I was trying to think about this early today, actually, like what other hobby is there, besides comic collecting, where you can actually go and kind of meet your heroes basically, and then just chat with them and find out they're normal dudes and get, cool sketches from them and all that stuff. So once I started going to cons in about 2003, I've pretty much been collecting ever since nonstop. So that's, I guess you asked me how my collecting has changed since I was a kid. It has to mostly do with, you know, collecting signatures and sketches, I would say, at comic conventions. So it's always like my Disney World going to these things, I would say.
So do you have, I've seen a bunch of your sketches and the signatures that you have.
Mhm.
Is there people that you like want that you haven't gotten done yet? Because I know you have a nice collection of that stuff. Is there certain creators on your list like, man, I want to travel or do something to get this guy's signature and stuff? And who might those people be?
In terms of writers, I guess I just don't make it up to the Midwest a lot. I think probably my two I can name off the top of my head right now are Brian K. Vaughan and Ed Brubaker. For whatever reason, I've never seen those guys come to like Indiana or Chicago. I would absolutely mark out meeting those two because I have so many nice hardcovers and comics I've really enjoyed. And you guys know, I don't think it's any secret, I really like Why the Last Man, so I'd like to at least get my first issue or first set of hardcovers signed by Brian K. Vaughan. Artists, I think I've met a ton of artists living around here. Probably like, you know, your John Burns, like that'd be one of the biggest ones that, you know, is still kind of alive, I guess. Obviously, I missed out on a lot of the classic Silver Age artists. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones I would like to meet have passed away at this point. But yeah, just since going to cons this long, I've met so many awesome creators. And then Training Entertainment put in a chat, he's like, you need that Jim Lee sketch. Yeah, that would be a grail item, obviously. Luckily, I've at least met Jim Lee. But yeah, there's a couple offhand I would absolutely love to meet and haven't had a chance to.
Have you taken stock of the type of stuff that you have as far as how many signatures and original art pieces that you have?
Nah, I thought one day maybe I'll get really bored on a vacation and like start databasing all of my collection. My guess in terms of how many books in general I have, I don't think I've cracked 10. I thought I cracked 10,000, but thinking about it, it's probably closer to 8,000. But there's probably at least like minimum 5 signatures per box minimum, if not like half a box. Because I know like the ring around me, I think I counted like 80 or 90 signatures alone just on the wall. So, and I haven't really counted the sketches because I know there's, you know, a lot more people. I know we're talking about the Real Talk podcast. I think a guy said he had like 7 sketchbooks, and I can't even fathom that because I've been going to cons for a long time. I've only had this book since 2006, but I've got probably like about half of it filled. But, you know, these things ain't cheap, unfortunately.
I wanted to ask you, like I said, I know you have a large collection of that. Do you get them personalized to yourself? And is that something you ask, or do you not even think about that?
Some of them, yeah. I really don't think about it too much unless the creator asks me. Like I met Brian Posehn when he was doing that Deadpool run, and he's just like, we want it personalized? Like, sure, why not? And I know there's a couple others that, you know, sometimes basically if they ask, I'll do at least one issue because why not? But I don't want to waste the people behind me's time making sure the guy writes extra on the book. So sometimes if they ask, I'll ask for like maybe one.
That's awesome. I always enjoy looking at your stuff that you show, and I just love the fact that it's original and they're just doing it for. I actually don't have any artwork recently that's original art that I just had commissioned. Are they commissioned pieces? I take it, or just
yeah,
something?
most of them are. Like I have a couple that are. Like for instance, I picked this up at Cincinnati Comic Expo. From an artist named Andy Bennett. He's doing it now. Actually, it's called Inktober, where artists, they'll get on like Instagram or Twitter, and they'll just do a sketch a day in October for what have you, whatever reason. And I noticed this like a couple years ago. I'm like, man, that's a really cool Catwoman sketch. For some reason this year he's just like, I'm going to sell all my Inktober stuff from the past. And I'm like, holy crap, this is still on sale. I'll take it. So there's stuff like this, but most of the time in my book, yeah, a lot of this stuff's like just request and stuff like that. So for instance, I went to this guy J5. He didn't really do comic art, so he didn't like do like realism and horror and stuff. I'm like, you know what, it'd be cool, dude. Just give me a Freddy. Who doesn't love a simple Freddy Krueger? And this is what he came up with. And here I'm just gonna, obviously, when you get someone like Tom Grummett, who is an inspiration for me in this book, I'm like,
that's great.
This is one of the reasons. I mean, if there ever was like one image I could point to why I collect, it's this right here. Getting this made me feel like a 10-year-old again. So everything came full circle when I got this sketch. I know some people might not think this is the coolest thing ever, but this is like one of my holiest grail pieces, I guess you could say. Just, you know, getting a Superboy from Tom Grummett. So
you made me feel old. 10-year-old. I was like, I got that when I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, Chad, we are old.
That's true. That's true.
We're middle-aged. We're middle-aged men.
Yeah, all
I
of you
was gonna
guys
show
are
my
old. Me
other
and
bucket list.
Woodard are the young ones.
I'm actually here celebrating my birthday. Come
Oh,
on.
happy birthday,
Happy
man.
birthday, LP.
Birthday.
I'm sorry, Penny. Our birthday.
Happy
Oh,
birthday.
happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Penny.
Happy birthday, Penny.
LP, how old are you?
He's
I turned
21.
44 in 6 days, and Penny has her birthday right around the corner, so we decided to celebrate tonight.
Well, my birthday was technically before yours. Mine was the 4th.
Okay.
That makes you older.
Oh man. So now we're
36.
we're getting technical now. I'm 44.
I'm 36.
Oh my
Damn.
God, 12 years difference.
I know.
You're old.
I'm an old man, just like the rest of us.
I know for a fact that every lady stops aging at 36.
That's
they
right.
They don't get a day
Oh,
older than
I'm
36.
aging at 30.
Oh, is it 30?
30.
36 is the new 30, apparently. I don't know.
Seawood, I got a question.
I stopped
for you.
aging at 25. I just
I got
done
a
it 21
question for
times.
Mr. Seawood.
Yeah, go ahead, LP.
And I know the general answer to this question, but some may not. I mean, you have an impressive collection of commissions and sketch art, right?
Oh, thanks.
When someone goes to an artist, to get something done, I think they're quite often surprised, maybe sometimes about the pricing of how some of this art works. Some of it, you can get in Artist Alley relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start going to some of the more well-known names, you're starting to look at different price ranges. Like for you,
absolutely.
right? When you showed that Catwoman from October, that was like a beautiful drawing. I mean,
Yeah.
and you don't have to give exact prices, but along the lines, like if someone wants something like this done or get something like this, like, what kind of ballpark figure, are they looking at here?
No, that's fine. I like talking about the prices of sketches because, like you just said, sometimes it's a question mark. No one, like if you're new to the hobby and want to get into stuff like this, there's like one good guide I found online. It's a Facebook group that's like invite only, basically. So I paid $50 for this, which I thought it was a steal. Because sometimes quality like this you don't get for $50 at conventions. But I personally, I try to set like I have a line. I kind of try not to cross. And I'll admit with the Tom Grummett one, I pretty much went right on that line. So this is like $100. I'll just say it flat out. Easily worth it to me. Nice full body sketch. Because usually commissions, full body stuff, it's going to be over 3 figures almost every single time.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, like I said, that's why I always talk about Ty Templeton. I think he's the best value in terms of commissions. He did this for $75. So if this guy is going to a con near you and you want to get your first sketch, you can't get a better quality for the best bang for your buck than Ty Templeton.
Yeah, and on top of that, he colored it too. So
Absolutely.
Usually that color is a little bit extra.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, it is. Yeah. So yeah, I think he said it would have been 60 without color. So I think this one was like $40s to $60, which this one's Bob McLeod. I think he's actually raised his rates this year too. So just a few examples there of what you can get per price.
Hey, Woodard,
yeah.
CR Comics to Toy says, you ever get worried getting the sketchbooks back if someone works on it?
Yeah, that's why I usually try to at least put my name and contact information in the very back of this book. Because like you said, you never know who's out there. And that's why you kind of want to do your research in advance. Like, try to find those Facebook groups so you can figure out, your dependable artists who are going to give you, not only your book back, obviously, but, a good value for your money. Like, here's another one. Got a Steve McNiven. I think this was like $40.
Wow,
But he only did a few that day. So pretty cool group right there.
Man.
So, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of research anymore that has to go into getting sketches, it seems like. Because originally, I'll just kind of talk about my initial experiences, since you kind of brought it up. Because used to, a lot of them, I mean, they didn't charge sometimes. I mean, you can still get a freebie sketch here and there. But DC and Marvel used to make the rounds a little bit more in the early 2000s conventions. And maybe some of the other panel members can talk about their experiences if they went to any in like the 90s or before, because I didn't. But usually they did a lot more free ones. Like I got this Ali Garza Kid Devil. Did that completely for free just because he was sponsored by, I think, either Top Cow or Aspen that day. And he was doing Teen Titans at the time, so I really like Kid Devil. And then here's like a Mike Norton. He just did this in like 2 seconds. It is what it is. It's a Black Canary. So, hey, I didn't have to pay for it. It was free, so that was cool. But then there's other booths like the Hero Initiative that obviously you're going to have to pay to do anything there. But no, number one, it goes to a great cause. Number two, you're usually going to get a good quality sketch. So here's like a Tim Seeley, probably paid $40 for it in 2008. Which, by the way, quick plug for Chuckload of Comics. He's going crazy at Ace Comic Con this weekend, and he interviewed Tim Seeley today on his channel. So I want to get a quick plug for him in. So just a few examples of what it was like about 10 years ago, I guess, at this point.
That looks awesome. Hey, Legend brought up that there was a question in the chat. How is the rest of the chat looking, Legend? Can you take a look at that for us?
Chat's really cool. Like Brett in February. We got Sam. Sam's Tangled Web's 46. So we got a lot of people going over their age. Brian Spaceboy, you're a liar. You're not 22.
Oh, what? Foul.
Gretzky's 40. I knew Gretzky was 40. So people are going over their stuff. They really love the information you're giving Carson on. C. Woodard.
The secret's out at this point.
Yeah,
I'm 34 years old, by the way. If I'm the youngest on the panel, there's the line. If anyone else is younger in the chat.
Got JD at 44.
I think you got it, Seawood.
JD at 44. I love to flip through them every now and then. Brett has badass pages. Brett has some pages of original work and sketches. Nice. I mean, it's just so cool. So everyone's really they love that sketchbook, man. If you want to see more sketches, all you got to do is subscribe to C. Woodard 19, man. He'll show you this kind of stuff every Tuesday, and we got him here every Friday on the Comical.
And Trinity brought up a point that I've noticed too. I've heard from a couple people. You're more likely to get cut a break on the price when you get it done in a sketchbook as opposed to a cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they know you're not going to just immediately flip it.
Oh, yeah. So, Chad, we're going to come to you next, but I got one more last question for Seawood. Seawood, about your sketches and stuff. So you go to a lot of cons, you get these done. Is there a good time to hit up the con? Is it the first thing you should do when you get there, or should you wait?
Yes.
What should you do?
So, like, for instance, I'll go back to Ty Templeton. It took me 2 conventions to get this Ty Templeton sketch, basically. So, I mean, usually if you're going to a con, you want to go down the guest list. You kind of want to plan who you're going to get signatures from, who you'd like to try to get that, 1 to 2 sketches from. Because that is the one drawback to the sketchbook. Like, when I got the Grummet, he wanted it almost the whole weekend. But I knew if that was going to lock me getting this sketch, here you go. So, unfortunately, I couldn't go around to some of the smaller artists and get some of their work like I did the year before. But to get this, I originally wanted to get it at, I think, Cincinnati Comic Expo 2017. I went on a Saturday first thing. Obviously, when he does quality like this, he was so popular, he booked up for the entire weekend Friday morning. Luckily, he was going to Indiana Comic Con 2018, which I was also going to. So I asked for the day off of work to go to Indiana Comic Con 2018. I knew to have that Friday off. I headed there as early as I possibly could. And the first place I darted to was his table. So to get this, I did have to plan. I couldn't have just walked up Sunday afternoon and like, hey, man, I really want a full-body Poison Ivy sketch, please. And he probably would have laughed at me. So, yeah, you do have to plan in terms of getting your commit. I mean, sometimes, like, for instance, I showed that Freddie earlier from J5. He's a smaller artist. I just walked right up to him, and he had it done in, like, a few hours. So, like, and then I got another one. It's an Eraserhead from the same artist as the Catwoman, Andy Bennett. So he did this like Sunday afternoon in like an hour. So, the lesser-known artists, you can get stuff from pretty quick because obviously their demand isn't as heavy as some of the Marvel and DC established artists and writers. But yeah, if you want that one Grail piece, like I wanted that Tom Grummer or that Ty Templeton, you got to plan for it. But sometimes you get stuff like this just by walking up, no matter what day it is.
One more question. How about, like, do they put anything behind the page? Like,
yeah, that's all.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Like a board or something.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta be like, hey, man, you might want to put this back there because I bought this sketchbook, I think, in 2005, 2006. So just this page quality, it's not even near as thick as, say, some of those sketch covers that come out through DC and Marvel anymore. So, I mean, I think the first thing in this book, actually, there's an Iron Man by Adi Granov, which I got for free way back when. And there's a tiny dot right there that because I got some writer signatures here. I don't even know who this writer is. I think it was actually the Christopher Drake, the composer for the DC animated movies. For some reason, he really had to accentuate a dot there at the end of his signature and it put one dot on Iron Man. So yeah, sometimes there's a little bleed through on that.
Yeah, I'd like jump in on that for a sec. Yeah, if you're looking for art, plan that out ahead of time because by the time like let's say you go to a convention and they have an early night, like Thursday night. That is the perfect time to go up to them and bring your sketchbook or bring your blank covers to, because you know what? They may tell you, hey, you know what? Even though it's Thursday and we just got here, I already got 5 people on my list, you know? And so it takes them all weekend to do these. And sometimes they'll bring them back to the hotel and draw all night and then come back the next day with them. So the earlier you hit them up, obviously the better, you know? Especially if they're high in demand. You know, if you're going after a Jamie Tyndall or a Dom Mateague or an Ashley Witter or someone like that, you want to make sure you're one of the first, because they'll have a cutoff point. They have to, you know?
Well, I think, you know what, Seawood, if anyone has any questions for Seawood, please leave them in the chat. And if you have any questions for anyone else on the panel, because there's a lot of knowledge that's up on this panel, and we, for the most part, we know our stuff. I'm kind of out on left field on a lot of things, but for the other guys, they know their stuff. But we've kept Chad waiting for so long. He's just sitting over there. He's just stewing. So, Chad, guess what, buddy? It's your turn, man. Why do you collect? Why did you start collecting? And just share your thoughts, man. I got some other follow-up questions about why you collect as well. So go for it.
So my mom was a second grade teacher. Learning to read, when I was a child, I had a little bit of a stuttering problem. And my mom made me read golden books. And I shared this with a couple of guys before in the past. And my dad hated the golden books. Absolutely loathed them. And he started taking me to get Spider-Man comic books, and that led into a small obsession from when I was real little. I remember, like, hey, you get 2 hits today at the baseball game, I'll buy you a comic book. And it just continued. And I then went to, when I was in high school, I had a teacher. His name was Barry Harris. He was my AP Bio teacher. And he actually worked at a comic book shop as well. And he would give us a discount. We would order, you know, tell him what books we wanted, and he brought them to school. So he had a little side hustle going. And that kept me into it. And then I really, really got into the books when the death of Superman, and just like Seawood, you know, Superboy was, I was like, this is awesome. And it was like new characters being made and new stories being told. So I really enjoyed that aspect. When I went to college, I continued to read, but I had to do it on the low down because I played baseball, and the guys all were like, that's weird, man. Why are you reading that? I don't know. My mom must have left these here for my cousin. And but you know, like I said, there's a lot of stories that I like, and it's kind of funny now. My son, who's 22, he as he grew up, he was never into comic books, and he started getting into comic books through like PlayStation with the Arkham games, and it became fun actually sharing that, you know, same interest. And Tyler would look into the stories, and he started reading backstories, and as the movies came out, it brought us a little closer together. And it's just been there. Like I said, I'm in it for the story. Michael Turner was my favorite artist. My biggest holy grail was meeting Alex Ross, and I actually bought a original art piece of his. It was the Harley Quinn and Joker, and then I have the statue as well. So yeah, those are my that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's awesome, and you don't see a lot of people that pick the Holy Grail as just meeting one of your comic book creators. So that's pretty cool.
On one of our videos, or one of the early Comic Core videos that we did, we were doing and I don't think I was on this one, but you wanted to do a like a swap type thing, and you referred to it. This is something I used to do as a kid. You know, we used to swap out our books. Is that something that you actually did? Did you have friends that you guys were just swapping books back and forth? And if so, tell us a little bit about that, because I never had any friends that wanted to do that with me.
So, I mean, I do it to this day. I mean, Paulie can verify it, but the books don't have meaning to me. Like stories have meaning to me. If I have like some of my big books might be the first appearance of Connor Kent, or you know, my dog is crying, so if you can hear him, I don't know why. You know, Connor Kent, Teen Titans, Young Justice, Superman, Cyborg Superman, Spider-Man, the Clone. I actually like the Clone Saga, but I guess I would rather somebody else gain enjoyment from reading the book than me continuing to hold on to something that is literally going to sit on a shelf and collect dust. And you know, I was on a chat one time, or on Blasted and Stash It with the Huey's Comics, and we were doing an off air, and I said, well, what's your holy grail? And he said, man, I really want Hulk 129. So I literally sent it to him, and he was like, no, you don't need to. I'm not gonna. I don't want anything with it. And Rich, who used to be on the show with me, he needed Hulk 181. And I gave it up. You know, it doesn't really mean that much to me.
Yeah, and that was Huey wanted Amazing Spider-Man 129. That was the one.
Yeah,
you said Hulk 129.
Yeah, I was curious about what the significance of the Hulk 129 was.
So I mean, and then I learned a good lesson because I sent Manny Giant Size X-Men in Media Mail. So I learned a lesson when I came to do not send anything in Media Mail, especially to Manny. So no, I'm more of I like to read. The best thing that came out of, like, we just recently went to Baltimore Comic-Con, and you saw that debacle a couple Friday nights ago. But the best thing about it was getting to hang out with these guys and the relationships that we've formed recently. I mean, hell, Paul and all of you guys. I mean, Carson, I've talked to probably 3 times this week, and he whooped my ass in WWE. Legend continues to lay the smackdown on me.
I love to powerbomb people on steel steps with Baron Corbin.
I'm coming for you, sir. Don't worry.
And like,
God, and you too, Seawood, all of you.
And me.
And I talk to Paul probably every single day. I talk to all of you guys almost every single day. So I like the community. I like the aspect. I like the camaraderie it brings, and yeah, that's about it.
So, Chad, I got one more question for you, okay? And you kind of brought up your son, and I think he's in his 20s or early 20s or whatnot.
Yep.
So, is he collecting now? And is he collecting because of your collection? Does he have a problem with does he like digital comics? Is that something? Because that's something we never experienced. You know, most of us on the panel are 30s and 40s, and I think Legend is in the 60s. But you know, 65.
You guys lose me.
No, you're there. So go ahead. Let me know about. I want to hear about your son. What's his take on collecting as well, or at least from your point of view?
He doesn't care anything about comic books at all. He goes to the movies, but if he gets to debate me in something, that's probably the biggest enjoyment that he gets. He prefer to tell me I'm wrong about something than actually say that, hey, that was good. I said, hey, the Venom movie was okay. He goes, no, it was the best movie ever. And I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. But you know, he's not into collecting comics, and I think you said it earlier. It skips a generation, and right now, I work with a bunch of younger individuals. You know, they're early 30s, late 20s. None of them like comic books. And, like, I see a decline, but now I'm seeing a little bit of an uptake with the younger generation, the guys that are in high school, because when I'm in the LCS, it stops around 30 and then it starts again around 17.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole generation that was removed, and I think a lot of that has to do with online gaming, with different aspects, and they find more enjoyment in playing the game or communicating online and sometimes trolling people.
I think that you know, obviously there's more options for a younger generation now that we just didn't have. You know, it's going to grab their attention type thing. You know, so I see that a lot. I know that my kids, that, like I said before, they have no interest in comics. But that being said, they have interest in the characters. And I've noticed that a lot. Like, they want to go see the new Thor. They want to go see these movies, but they have zero interest in the books that these are based off of. And that's a little frustrating when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, so my son was extremely pumped about Logan, Old Man Logan. He wanted to see this. And I handed him the book, and he was like, "Man, this is really good." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he liked the movie. I like the movie too. But the one that really got him is he watched Wanted. And I said, when Mark Millar wrote that book, I mean, he had cast that as a movie. I mean, he put Eminem as the lead. He put Halle Berry as the female lead. And he read the book and he's like, "Why didn't they make this?" And I'm like, "Exactly, right?" And they don't know what they don't know. You know, it takes a little bit of, you know, forcing the book down their throat. But like, hey, read this book. Just tell me what you think. And I see these guys being a little bit more after they read it. They're like, "Hey, so tell me a bit more about the story." If you tell somebody who watches, one of the younger generation that watches The Flash and never read a comic book, they come to you all the time and they're like, "Man, that episode last night was awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, but it was Wally West's story." They're like, who's Wally West? You mean that?
Yeah.
No, there was a redheaded kid that was Wally West for a minute. And they're like, "Oh, the one from the Justice League?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. The cartoon?" Yeah. So they got more options. They'll come around. Like, everybody comes back to it, right?
I hope so, because I really want my comics to go to my kids. You know, I don't want them to fall into the government's hands. I couldn't take it. But guys, I think we've had a great conversation tonight. I really enjoy this topic. I enjoy, you know, hearing your guys' how it started out and where you're at right now. But I think we've been at it about an hour and a half, and so it's been a long show. So I want to kind of wind it down. And I'd like to go through the panel and give you guys a little bit of chance to kind of let me know what's going on this week and thank our viewers. So we're going to start off with, Seawood. Let us know what's going on this week and have some closing thoughts for us.
All right. So just thanks everybody again for checking out my live stream every Tuesdays. I highlighted Titans comics this last Tuesday, so that was a lot of fun bringing out my whole Jeff Johns Titans run, which, by the way, Trinity's really asking about it in the chat a couple times. I really enjoyed episode 1 of the Titans on DC streaming service, so there was that. So that was, I give it a thumbs up so far. But like I said, other than that, I'm going to try to have a community support video hopefully out tomorrow. I was kind of hoping today, but then I fell asleep and took a 2-hour nap, so that didn't happen. So, you know, shout out to Reggie Simmons for this cool topic. Absolutely. So thanks again, once again, for having me, and awesome job tonight, Bueller. You did great.
Well, thank you very much. It was kind of a last-minute decision for me to be the host. Literally 5 seconds before we hit the live button. Oh, you're the host. So, Paul, how about you, my friend? What's going on this week? And let us know about the service that you provide, because it's a pretty unique service, and more people need to know about it. So take some time and fill us in.
Well, first off, I want to thank everybody in the chat for showing up. And what you're referring to is I clean and press comic books. Anybody needs any cleaning or pressing done, you can get a hold of me through here or on my website at midwestcbs.com. I know Legend had mentioned he's probably sending me something pretty soon.
This week, man, on Monday, sending some good books.
So if you're looking to increase the value of your books, you know, we can help you out there. And again, just thank everybody for showing up, and hope they enjoyed our show tonight.
What show?
I hope they did too.
Hush.
What's that? Okay, hey, you know, Rebel Gaming, go ahead and take it, my friend. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods.
He's just upset because she didn't get to say what she wanted to talk about tonight, and that's okay. But as for me, I got a signing tomorrow at Fredericton, New Brunswick at the Fredericton Comic Hunter, so I'm going to be there at 12 noon. with cosplay model Jeanette. We also just got the new RB White cover for Bonnie Origins #1. I don't know if any of you guys have that on file that you can pop up, but I unveiled it on Facebook and on Twitter today. I was going to show the YouTube peeps that file. But if you haven't seen it, don't worry. Rebel Comics or Niobe Comics will pop that up shortly. So that's it for current things that I'm doing. But Penny, she had things she wanted to say. Like she has a 9-year-old son who goes to the comic shop weekly, with the father, my buddy Mike, and they pick out comics. Lately, he's been reading Zero Jumper from Alterna, reads Teen Titans Go from DC Comics. So there
Psycho KO.
What else?
And Psycho KO.
And Psycho KO?
Yeah.
I see. I don't know that book, but there are still kids.
Alterna too.
Still some kids that like comics, but you kind of have to, like you said, Chad, like you kind of have to point them in the right direction and, maybe force feed them a little bit just so they see what they're kind of missing. You know what I mean? And then once they get that bug, then I find the hook. Like now Liam's, addicted. He's addicted. Every night.
He wants to go to the comic shop every week. And every night he's in middle school not quite middle school yet. And
he's 9 years old.
He's 9 and he's in grade 4 and has reading programs at school. So every night we're supposed to read and he chooses to read comic books every night before bed. And that's awesome. Our routine. So 20, 30 minutes every night is spent on reading stuff that he's picked up that week at the Comic Hunter. And he loves it. And he's proud of it. And maybe he wouldn't have been in that if, my partner, his dad wasn't involved in that genre. But he is now. He's immersed in it and he loves it and he's proud of it. The first thing he said tonight was, I want to stay up until Larry gets here because I want to show him my new comic book. That's something as a mom, and I'm not even a comic book reader, but I'm proud of that. My child wants to show something that he's interested in and he's reading. He wants to show it to someone who's his buddy. He loves it. So I don't think that comic books are dead in the new generation. I just think that we have to sort of guide our children along and show them what's important.
I agree. I think the fact that it's something that needs to be introduced to the younger generation because it's not sitting there at the checkout at the grocery store. It's not sitting there like it used to be. That we're always so used to seeing it when we went to 7-Eleven. It's just not there.
You would gravitate to these bright images, these characters that you saw in the corner store or the 7-Eleven, like you said. Now, literally, though, you pretty much have to go to a specialized store to find this stuff. But let me tell you something. When this kid first saw the Comic Hunter here, when you walk in the LC, you want to see eyes wide, right open. That was that kid, man.
Well, I'm going to pay a compliment to the two of these guys. I mean, all of the guys on the panel, but Carson does an awesome Tuesday night. Legend has the voice, the gift for gab and the gift for jab, and Bueller. You guys are literally introducing a whole new generation just off your channels alone. I mean, this channel itself was something else, through when it was reviews from the Batcave, and we wanted to bring a generation into DC and into what we had. But you guys, I'm telling you 100%, Bueller, thank you, Carson, thank you, and Legend, you guys absolutely rock, and this Comic Core is, well, I mean, Bueller, you were on the second show and you never left, and this is awesome.
So can't get rid of me, man.
It's awesome, but
I'm like a fungus that won't go away.
You guys do a really great job on your shows, and you're reaching out to different avenues. And Rich and I used to have conversations all the time about hey, what can we do different? What can we do? Because the comic book community, it's here's my haul. This is what I got. Let me show you. It's a big game of show and tell.
I
And
got this Funko. It's like Ernie's awesome.
There you go.
it's a big game of show and tell, and you guys bring something completely different to the table. LP and I had a conversation with GPAP and C Wood. You know, Bueller, you did that show with your friend that did the sign language, and that was absolutely something that had never been shown. You do reviews with Jeff, and that's half of our other friends. They don't read comic books, but hey, here's Jeff. and like legend, you are a godfather among all the community. G1, I don't know, but you've done. I mean, go back and look at these guys' videos. Paulie and Blasted and Stash It have been on the show, on doing their thing, and I think you guys on the panel right now, I thank you because you're introducing comics to a new generation.
So I appreciate that. That's good stuff.
Chad, we're going to go to our last panel member here in a second, but before we do, I kind of consider that to be your closing statement. But there's a couple of things that are going on. I wanted you to point out, do me a favor. We're doing the giveaway. I wanted to make sure we get that. And then I wanted you to talk about a couple of the recent videos that are on the channel right now with an interview and the gentleman we talked to last week. Kind of tell us, some of our viewers that might be watching, tell us what they can go back and watch.
So again, the idea of the channel was a group. It was a community channel. It's for everybody in the chat, in the panel. Anybody that wants to be on the show, you contact us. We'll put you on. We don't care. Because literally we just like to hear ourselves talk a lot and drink. But last week we had Chad Ciccone from Action Labs. He has a new book coming out. Very good friend of our group now. You know, he goes to my local. We saw him again down at Baltimore. He said, I'd love to come on the show. They're coming back in December with one of the other creators in Action Labs. And we have a couple other people that Comics Misexplained has reached out to as well and given some business cards to. But with that being said, Comics Misexplained also was recently up at New York Comic Con. He uploaded 2 videos, one of which was the Batman animated series panel, and the other one was a Jeff Johns and Jim Lee panel that we're talking about some of the upcoming movies. And, you know, we're going to be adding more and more content. We have an interview with Garth Ennis that's currently up. We also will have an interview with Justin Jordan. We have an interview with the artist from Marvel Zombies. We have a couple future guests. But again, if you guys, this channel was designed for the community. Hey, I got one question. Since we talked about what we like and how we got into comics, is this a 5-way submission into Reggie's?
I think it is, man. We're gonna have to let him know that, dude. We just all entered your contest at one time.
It's pretty epic. So, yeah, and we have a lot of things planned. I know Legend wants to talk about some of the upcoming things, but I do have to reach out and give one special plug. I've been kind of coordinating with my brother from Iowa and my other, I won't call him a brother because I'm from Pittsburgh, so I don't like Baltimore, but it was a fun time. Drew Manchu and all of us are working on a massive meetup in C2E2 coming up, and we will be giving more details to come through this channel, also with Blasted and Stash It. I'm going to get my Texas brothers up there. And
I'll get there.
and my West Coast friends got to get there because this mansion looks pretty sweet. We're gonna call it Legends House. We're gonna make
Legends House.
We're gonna make Carson work the entire time. Bueller, you're gonna dress up like Mean Gene.
Drew Manchu could be Pat Patterson. Don't let him get in bed with you guys.
Yeah. Chad, you mentioned a giveaway at the beginning.
All right.
Segue, brother.
So I have 2 books. We'll do one giveaway for both books. If you have watched our show, I tell a story about one time when I was watching the movie Tombstone. And Doc Holliday, his famous line in there is, "Say what?" And what did I hear? Because I was watching the Spanish channel.
Oh man.
What?
Well, that's what he said in English.
Someone's gonna win this by default.
I just picture Stone Cold Steve Austin. What?
What?
Oh, Trinity Entertainment won it. And
There we go.
Surprise,
Wando.
surprise.
There you go.
Wando.
Trinity is the winner.
Wando.
So what was the answer?
Quando.
I was going to say that, but I didn't know it.
So I was watching the movie. I was watching the show. I didn't realize it was on the Spanish channel, and I always repeat that line. And I'm like, "Say when?" And he goes, "Quando." And I'm like, "Whoa, what?" And I see LP showing a picture. LP, why don't you tell us who that character is?
Who this lovely blue skin lady is? That's Avani, the villain from Niobe, who's got her own spin-off comic. This is the latest cover that was dropped to me today by RB White. And this Kickstarter is going to show up around the corner in about a month. So we're happy with the progress of Avani. We want to plug it. And, RB White's done covers for Zombie Tramp and Danger Doll and Vampblade. And we're happy to have Action Labs RB White, continuing to do our covers, doing a phenomenal job. And, big shout out to Jeanette Arsenal, the cosplayer. We're taking photos of her tomorrow for the cosplay cover. And I just want to unveil this cover because I just got it, within the last 24 hours to the community to show you we're still trucking, baby.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's quite a big bathing suit she's wearing there.
Well, I'm shy away from that.
She's looking good. Man, I don't think I could pull it off, but she definitely did.
She's got some assets there, Bueller. She's got some
yeah, she does. I don't know how this makes me feel, but I'm happy.
Well, if you feel funny, then Penny's got the hiccups, by the way. So if you hear a hiccup, it's true.
Well, that's very cool. I'm glad you're able to show that. It looks like an awesome cover. Very cool looking. Very cool villain. Very seductive in all her ways. She got the orange hair going on. I think didn't that girl from the Fifth Element have the orange hair going on as well? I think.
She'll rip your throat out. Don't. She'll rip your throat out faster than you can blink. So.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a good guy. He's a bad guy.
So we got one last member on our panel that needs to kind of let us know how the chat went tonight and who was in there. You know who I'm talking about. This is the legend himself. Take it away, my friend.
Man, the chat is really hopping. We got some new folks in the chat. We got one of the old schools with us tonight, man. Sleepy Reader 666 Damien. It's great to have Damien in the chat, man. He's a G1, G2er, man. He was around back in the day. He's seen it all in the comic book community. We got Travis Roberts, man. It was great to see Travis coming in here. And also, we have Roman Curtis. C. Woodard, Big Dog Roman.
The big
Curtis
dog.
Oh, I love when Michael Cole says, "It's the big dog. It's his yard. It's his yard." But no, we had a lot of great folks in the chat. A lot of good stuff tonight. Everyone, we are so glad you came out to watch us. Brett Hess, great effing panel. So different than other channels. And that's what it's all about, man. Everyone just do their own thing and, try not to, do what everyone else does, but, make it that moment your own moment. When you do your videos, make something special, make something memorable so people will have that, and then they'll remember, like, yeah, I need to go and check out that guy's next video because he really was awesome. Sunday night, the return of Legends Truth, man. That's right.
I was wondering about that.
Legends Truth is coming back, and it's a great topic. It's a really great topic. I've been thinking about doing this one for a long, long time. It's going to be called Jealousy in an Online World. And it's how do we deal with, the jealous, feelings we have when we see one of our peers do something better or have more views or have more subs. Like, how does it make us feel? Can we like learn from that person to see what they're doing the right way? Can we like maybe take and learn something? Or do we just get so mad, we talk crap about them or thumb them down? It's like, I've been here longer. This guy's only been here like 5 months. So it's kind of like taking a look at that. And it's really, not so much worrying about what someone else is doing, but it's kind of worrying about what you're doing and like taking the focus off that person that, is, doing his thing and putting the focus back on what you're doing personally, and not only just in the comic book community or YouTube community, but what you're doing in life and different ways that you can, think outside the box and use your eyes in a different way. Use it as a constructive to make yourself better, to improve your own self. And we're also going to be talking about one of the very first, if not the first, story of jealousy, two brothers, Cain and Abel. So you're going to want to make sure you get this one and bookmark it, because it's going to be a great message.
Thank you very much, Legend. I'm looking forward to Sunday night. I'm looking forward to all these guys' channels and stuff and watching the stuff they do, because I really enjoy them all. I want to say thanks to everybody who was in the chat. Unfortunately, I didn't see who was in the chat because my other screen was not working. So these great guys on the panel were covering for that for me. This was a lot of fun. Make sure you come here every Friday night. Comic Core, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and something in the middle other times as well. But it's a live show. There's a lot of knowledge on this channel. I hope you guys had a good night. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we will see you next time